Using the same two meta guns can get a little boring in Warzone. So if you're looking to use some non-meta guns in Warzone that you can compete with, then this is the video for you. Yo, what's up guys? My name is Mint and welcome back to another YouTube video. In today's video, I'm going to be checking out the top 5 best non-meta loadouts in Warzone for Season 3. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you guys hit that sub button as I upload a lot of Warzone content on this channel. And if you enjoyed the video and like any of these loadouts, make sure you guys hit that like button as it'll help me out a lot and I really appreciate it. So make sure you guys hit that like button. Now let's get right into the video guys. At number 5, we have the Kilo 141 and the Fennec as the secondary. Now I know what you guys are thinking. Didn't the Kilo get nerfed to the ground? And you're right, they nerfed the Kilo so hard that everyone forgot how good this gun used to be. This thing used to be a laser, had no recoil at all, and it still has no recoil. So you might be asking, why did people stop using this gun? And the reason is they nerfed the long range damage of this gun, so it wasn't as strong as it used to be. But if you've been keeping up with Warzone recently, Raven's trying to decrease the time to kill in Warzone by balancing a lot of weapons. Hence, there's no real gun in Warzone right now that's considered the king. Like the Kilo used to be, the Grau, and the DMR. So like the top guns being balanced like the AMAX, the Kilo doesn't feel that bad. This falls under the range of the M13 and the Grau. If you like any of those two guns, you're gonna love the Kilo. Go back and give this thing another try and you won't regret it. Now let me show you the loadout for the Kilo. It's a pretty basic setup. For the muzzle, we have the monolithic suppressor. For the barrel, we have the Singard's arm 19.8-inch barrel. And I put a VLK 3.0 optic on it. And for the underbarrel, we have the Commando foregrip with 60 round mags. If you're not a fan of the Commando foregrip, try the Ranger foregrip. They're both pretty good. It's just preference on which one you like better. Now moving on to the secondary, the Fennec. Fennec is one of my favorite SMGs in Warzone to use. With the high fire rate, this gun shreds people up close. And with the Mag-10 not being as strong as it used to be, the Fennec fits right in. And I don't see a lot of people running around in Warzone with the Fennec. A lot of people have hopped on the train of the LC10 and the FAR 83, and some people have even gone back to the MP5 of MW, but you're sleeping on the Fennec. The only drawback to the Fennec I see is the ammo capacity. The maximum ammo in the Fennec you can get is 40 rounds, and with the fire rate for this gun being so high, you feel like you run out of ammo so quick. So if you're playing squads or even trios, you might find yourself in a tricky situation where you run out of ammo before you can wipe out the whole squad. But if you're playing solos or duos, try this gun out. The Fennec has one of the fastest fire rates in the game, and the faster you can dish out those bullets, the faster you can kill the enemy. And here's the loadout for the Fennec. We have the ZLR 18-inch deadfall barrel, 5mm laser, no stock for the mobility and aim down sight time, Merc foregrip for the hip fire accuracy, and the 40 round drum mag. Let me know what you guys think about this combo in the comments below. And now let's move on to number 4 on the list. We have the MP7 and the Tundra. I had to include a loadout for my sniper boys out there, and I feel like the Tundra is a heavily underrated sniper in Warzone. We all know the Kar 98 dominates the sniper meta in Warzone. And with the new addition of the Swiss K31, a lot of people have started switching over to that as well. But the Tundra has one of the highest bullet velocities in the game. It competes with the HDR that can compete with the likes of the Kar 98 and the Swiss K31. Now obviously it won't beat those two because both of them have such a fast ADS time, but the ADS time on the Tundra isn't that bad. And the Tundra having such a high bullet velocity, you can turn this thing into hit scan. And with the recent update in Warzone, they also fixed the base scope of the Tundra, reducing the fisheye lens effect on the scope. So the scope is a lot more clear as well. But enough of that, let me show you guys the loadout for the Tundra. For the muzzle, we have the wrap suppressor, and for the barrel, we have the 29.1-inch combat recon, and for the laser, we have the 5mm laser to increase the ADS time, and I put the 7-round ammunitions in it. And lastly, for the rear grip, I put a serpent grip to increase the ADS time and flinch resistant. Now if you don't need 7 rounds, you can switch that for an optic of your liking, or you can put a radar pad on it to increase your sprint to fire time. That's up to you, but this is the loadout I was running, and it's a pretty nice loadout for the Tundra. Now moving on to your secondary, the sniper support, which is the MP7. MP7 has its own fan base since the beginning of Warzone. A lot of people love this gun, but I still don't see this gun around Warzone that much. There's a lot of sniper supports you can use in Warzone. Nowadays mainly people use the Bullfrog LC10 or the FAR 83. People have also started using the Ram 7, but the MP7 takes a backseat to all of that because this SMG is pretty damn good, especially at those mid ranges. So here's the loadout for it. We got the monolithic suppressor. For the barrel, we have the FS Recon, and I put a 5mm laser to improve the hip fire accuracy, so when you're fighting up close, you stand a chance against the MP5s, the Mag-10s and whatnot. For the underbarrel, we have the Ranger foregrip and a 60 round mag. And that's my loadout for number 4. Now let's move on to number 3 on the list. We have the Grau and the Gallo. Now let me start off with the Gallo. I don't see a lot of people using shotguns in Warzone either. I know recently some people started using the Street Sweeper, but not a lot of people use shotguns. Warzone is heavily dominated by SMGs, but these shotguns aren't all that bad, especially for those close quarters. And the Gallo is one of my favorite shotguns to use in Warzone. The Gallo is a semi-auto shotgun with some reliable damage. I would say only pull out the shotgun if you're in the 10 to 12 meter range, but it's a nice little surprise to have in your back pocket if somebody's pushing you or you're pushing in a house. Now let me show you the loadout for this gun. For the muzzle we have the agency choke. For the barrel we have the 24.8-inch task force barrel. And for the laser I put the Ember sighting point on it for the effective damage range and the hip fire accuracy. Because most of the shotguns you're going to be hip firing, especially since you're so close to the enemy. And I put a 9-round magazine in the shotgun. And lastly I put a wire stock to increase that sprint to fire time. Now moving on to primary we have the Grau. Like I mentioned with the Kilo, this is one of those guns with not a lot of recoil. And it also doesn't do a lot of damage at range. I shouldn't say a lot of damage. It does do damage, but not as much as it used to when people were running this as the meta. But that doesn't mean it's not good anymore. It's still very good in Warzone if you can manage to land all your shots. But enough of that, a lot of people already know about the Grau. Let me just show you the loadout. For the muzzle, we have the monolithic suppressor. For the barrel, we have the Tempest 26.4-inch Archangel barrel. For the under barrel, I got the Commando foregrip on it. I got a 60-round mag and a VLK scope. So moving on to number 2, we have the P90 and the SPR combo. Starting off with the P90, this is one of my favorite SMGs to use in Warzone. I loved picking this thing up when it was on the ground loot. And it's just one of those SMGs that I love using since the beginning of Warzone. I don't know what it is about the P90, but I just love the feel of it. So I might be a little biased on this, that's why it's so high on the list, but I love the P90. It's very fun to use and has a lot of ammo capacity too, so you can just shred people. And if you're tired of using the same old sniper support weapons like the Ram 7, Bullfrog, now the LC10 which got a buff in the bullet velocity, then give the P90 a shot. This thing is very good. But anyways, let me show you the loadout for the P90. So on the P90 I have the monolithic suppressor. For the barrel, we have the FSS 10.6-inch Pro barrel. For the laser, I put a 5mm laser on it to help with the hip fire accuracy. And I put the CQB comb stock on it to help with that aim down sight. And lastly, I put the stipple grip tape to help with the ADS time and sprint to fire time as well. And for the secondary, we have the SPR. SPR is one of those snipers that falls in the middle of the spectrum when it comes to snipers in Warzone, along with the Tundra. It doesn't have the fastest ADS time and it doesn't have the slowest either. The ADS time for the SPR, it falls around 500. And the Car 98, which has a fastest ADS time in Warzone, is around 400. Even though the Car 98 is faster, it's not a huge difference. And a lot of people already use the Car 98, so the SPR is one of those snipers that take a backseat to the Car 98. And I don't know why, because it has a very good bullet velocity as well. It actually has a little bit higher bullet velocity than the Car 98. In my opinion, it's one of those hybrid snipers in Warzone that can do everything. Now let me show you the class setup for the SPR. For the muzzle, we have the monolithic suppressor. For the barrel, we have the SPR 26-inch barrel. I put a tac laser on it to help with the ADS time. And for the optic, I have the SPR 28mm optic on it. And lastly, I have the Lupa mags on it. You can play around with the Norma mags or the Lupa mags, whichever you like. I personally like the Lupa mags. Now moving on to the number 1 spot on this list, I have the M4A1 as the primary and the Cold War MP5 as the secondary. Along with the P90, M4A1 is also one of my favorite guns since the beginning of Warzone. And with the recent nerfs of the AMAX, M4 is right there when it comes to being the top rifle in Warzone. And I don't see a lot of people using the M4. So if you feel like the Grau isn't doing a lot of damage or the M13, give the M4A1 a chance. This thing beams in Warzone. It does have a little bit of recoil that you have to control, but once you get used to it, you can fry with this thing in Warzone. Now let me show you the loadout for the M4A1. For the muzzle, we have the monolithic suppressor. For the barrel, we have the custom marksman barrel. Now when it comes to the barrels, I like to play around with 2 of the barrels. It's either the stock M16 or the custom marksman barrel. The difference between the two is the M16 barrel is mainly used for those long range fights, and it won't do as good as the custom marksman barrel short range. So if you're using the M4A1 as a medium to long range option, go with the custom marksman as it's an all around barrel. But if you're purely using this for range, then I like the M16 stock barrel. And for the optic, we have the VLK 3.0 optic. For the under barrel, we have the Commando foregrip to help with that recoil stabilization and aiming stability. And lastly, we have the 60-round mag on it. Now moving on to the secondary, we have the Cold War MP5. Now just because a lot of people don't use the Cold War MP5 doesn't mean it's not good in Warzone. This thing can still compete in Warzone with the likes of the Mag-10 and the MW MP5. Now let me just show you the loadout for the Cold War MP5. For the muzzle, we have the sound suppressor, which recently got a buff as it helps with aim down sight, bullet velocity, and and sprint to fire time. And for the barrel, I'm going with the reinforced heavy as it helps me with the bullet velocity and the effective damage range. And for the laser, I went with the 5mm laser sight to increase that hip fire accuracy. And for the under barrel, I went with the field agent grip. And lastly, the 50 round drum mag so you don't have to reload that often. And those are my top 5 non-meta loadouts in Warzone for season 3. Let me know what you think of the list, and let me know if you think a gun should have been on the list that isn't in the comments below. And if you liked any of the loadouts, I'd appreciate it if you hit that like button as it helps me out a lot. And if you're new to the channel and enjoy Warzone content like this, hit that sub button so you don't miss out on future videos. And I'll see you guys in the next video.